Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to our regular planning board meeting for August 18th. Before we begin, just want a couple of quick announcements. One, if there's anyone who has any hard of hearing or hearing situations, we do have devices available. Just go to the back room with the control room and they can help you out with that. Second one, we finally have a full board. We have our new board member who was just recently appointed, Tony Corbiello. He's sitting in the back. Welcome aboard. Looking forward to having you on here next month. Once you get a hold of all the regulations and take your oath of office. Thank you very much for joining us. First night on the agenda for tonight is our approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the July 21st meeting minutes? So moved. Second. Moved and seconded. Any changes, questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye. Moving on to the public hearings. Application of 360 Constitution Avenue LLC owner for property located at 360 Constitution Avenue, wherein approval is requested to excavate 28,000 cubic feet of material from the site. Said property shown on Assessor Plan 274 is lots 1C and lies within an office research district. Who would like to address us this evening?
I would. My name is Dwight Snow. I'm with Ames MSC. I'm representing 360 Constitution Ave. We're seeking approval for an excavation plan at 360 Constitution Ave. That number, the 28,000, has been modified. It's approximately 10,500 cubic yards now, so it's much less than we anticipated. The ordinance requires authorization of a special permit, as this excavation is not associated with a construction project. The goal of this project is to improve the site so that it's more suitable for development. The ultimate goal is to subdivide the site and sell off a lot. A little about the plans. This area 1 that's shown on the plan, that is currently a pile of boulders that was placed there when the site was initially developed. Area 2 is some outcroppings of ledge over on the side, and we'd like to clear that to allow for an extension of the parking over here. If we, just in case the subdivision of the land takes away some parking over here. This area 3, that there are outcrops of ledge here. That is the biggest area that of concern, and that may need some blasting. If the rock is fractured, then we could remove it hydraulically, and that will provide access out to Constitution Ave, where we have the proposed access way. The ordinance requirement is a plan showing man-made features, property lines, and vegetative cover, topography with 4-foot intervals within 100 feet of the property. We currently have trees, these gray areas, that gray. We have trees up in the front here where we're going to be taking out some ledge. This pile of boulders is scrub shrub. There's no real growth there, and there are trees over on the side. The area that's affected is approximately 2.26 acres. We're also required on a reclamation plan to show the 2-foot contours, which we've done for the plans that you have in front of you. And we are proposing 4 inches of loam and seed in all the affected areas, with the exception of the access drive, which will be used for access to the site. So we're not going to put topsoil and seed there. So this is what it should look like. The ordinance also requires the estimated quantity to be removed, which is in the packet. Slopes, which are shown on the plans. Control of drainage. For this site, the post-development stormwater drainage will actually be less than the pre-development, because we're taking a lot of very steep slopes and leveling it out, so there will be a decrease in runoff. Fencing will be provided in the front where the slopes exceed 2 to 1. The vegetation that will remain as a visual barrier is everything within 10 feet of the property line. They're currently 10-foot to 40-foot trees. It's pretty thick, and that's what we propose remains as a visual barrier. The hours of operation are in the packets. The routes for transportation and the material, that was included in the initial letter, and we will not be going down Banfield Road. It'll have to be down Route 1. Setbacks are shown on the plans. The wetland buffer is shown, it might be difficult to see from there, but it's shown here on the plan, and we will not be doing any work within the buffer, and we will take all the erosion control measurements that are necessary. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the applicant at this time? Mr. Sullivan?
What effect is that going to have on the normal or natural flow of water that goes from the old Iafula property and so forth, down across this property, across Constitution and into the brook on the other side of Banfield Road? Are you going to be blocking that up, or is
No.
it going to be hindered or damaged, or what is?
No. I designed the grading so that the general direction of stormwater flow will not be changed. There will be a little more area contributing out toward Constitution Ave on this part of the site where the high ledge is. Overall, the water going this way and this way, which all ends up in the wetlands, that amount of water is going to be decreasing. We will not be putting up any barriers. The only structural object provided is a 12-inch pipe that's going to go under the access way.
Okay, so you're going to put a culvert under the road?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because the water flows from east to west through that property onto the next vacant lot, and then takes a right-hand turn and goes across Banfield Road into Hodgson's Brook and into the Great Bog. And I just want to make sure that that's not either going to be interrupted or hindered or polluted.
No, it will not be interrupted in any way.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I've got kind of an odd question. Typically, sites like this in the past, I've seen that when they're hauling the material off-site, that a lot of it ends up traveling down Constitution. Is there some mechanism we could work out with DPW that should that become a problem, that they bear the responsibility of cleaning Constitution up for any construction debris?
I think we can work that in. We'll have set up an agreement with the DPW to that they'd be responsible for cleaning and so forth. I think that'd be an appropriate condition.
Thank you.
We do have proposed two different roads for the truck that are construction entrances. Until the area number 3 is actually excavated, there will be no traffic directly onto Constitution Ave. It will all be going through the back part of his parking lot where we have one construction entrance, and hopefully all the dirt will be off before it leaves the site to go out onto the road. I should also mention that if my client can find a buyer for the lot without removing this ledge, then that's what he's going to do. He's not making any money on this excavation. He just wants to improve the site so that somebody would be more prone to buy it.
So the other access way coming onto Constitution will be developed after when you're taking down Area 3?
Yes.
And then is it your intent that that would be the driveway for that particular lot?
That makes sense, unless a buyer comes along and wants to remove more ledge for another access way.
Okay, and I think a stipulation then would be that would get approval from that from the DPW and Planning Department for the driveway and for the curb cut. That would be required. Any other questions for the applicant at this time? No. One more concern I have is coming off of Constitution, coming onto Route 1. Where do you go from there? Because that intersection is a difficult intersection, one we've been looking at recently. Would you be taking right turns onto Route 1 only, or?
Well, there is, the intention is to grind up the rock on site and find a buyer for it. We're not sure who the buyer would be right now, so it would depend on his route. If you prefer that they go left or right, we'll agree to whichever direction you want to go.
Any comment from that on the department, and if that's something we should look into because of that intersection and everything we're looking at that currently?
I don't think the board has to worry about that in the sense that the road's being used now for industrial purposes, and this will be a short-time operation.
Okay. What is the time frame for how long you think this would take?
Well, the permit's for 1 year. I know he would like to get rid of this pile of rock immediately and continue with this ledge. We would expect to have it done well within a year. If we don't, then we'll come back for an extension.
And what about, you'll be needing blasting permits?
Yes.
Okay. And make sure we have all the regulations where you're doing videos of neighboring buildings and so forth for a pre-blast preview.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak to, for, or against this application at this time? Anyone in the public to, for, or against? Third time, seeing no one rise, I'm going to close the public hearing. Also, just want to make note that this did have a unanimous vote from the Conservation Commission.
What is the recommendation of the planning department?
The department is recommending that you approve this request subject to the 8 stipulations that are contained in your memo, plus the one, I guess, from John Ritchie, and the one...
And from the Conservation Department adding the stipulations that the silt fence be installed during construction and that the silt fence be removed after the vegetation has been stabilized.
The one with the driveway. That would be an 11 total.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the chair votes aye. We're all set. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Moving on to B, the application of Smith Mitch Frost Properties owner for property located at 159 State and Rantan, Samantha R. Peck, James and Catherine Quick, Christopher Calori, Aaron J. and Jill A. Gretschner, Jonathan A. and Lisa Daniels, and Robert
I'll try Kasusko.
Kasusko, okay. And Kerry Breen, owners for property located at 147 State and preliminary and final subdivision approval. Lot line relocation is requested between 2 lots having the following. Lot 46-3 as assessor plan, shown on assessor plan 107, increasing in area from 5,099 square feet to 5,624 square feet. And lot 46-4 is shown on assessor plan 107, decreasing in area from 5,287 square feet to 4,761 square feet and lying in a zone where a minimum lot area of 1,000 square feet is required and no minimum street frontage is required. Said properties are located in the Central Business B and Historic A districts and are shown on Assessor Plan 107 as lots 46-3 and 46-4. Plot plan is on file with the Planning Department office and is identified as Plan 100105. This application was tabled at our July 21st meeting. Do I have a motion to take it off the board?
So moved.
Second. Moving second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The chair votes aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to report that the application continues to be contested in a variety of areas, so I would request that you table it to a time indefinite so that once these issues are clarified, the board can then re-advertise, let abutters know, and take the matter up.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Second. Moving second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Moving on to C, the application of Thomas Haney, owner for property located at 816 Middle Street, and preliminary and final subdivision approval is requested to divide 1 lot into 2 lots having the following. Lot 1 having 10,056 square feet and 100 feet of continuous street frontage on Lawrence Street, and Lot 2 having 15,046 square feet and 97.79 feet of continuous street frontage on Middle Street and lying in a zone where a minimum lot area of 7,500 square feet and 100 feet of continuous street frontage is required. Said property is shown on Assessor Plan 152 as lots 44 and lies within a general residence A district. Flat plans on file with the Planning Department office and identified as Plan 150105. Who would like to address this?
Mr. Chairman, being a direct abutter to this, I'm going to recuse myself, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ricci.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public. My name is Karen Lovejoy of Ambit Engineering, and I am here tonight representing Thomas Haney. Tonight, we are requesting both preliminary and final subdivision approval. It is proposed that this 25,000 square foot lot on Middle Street be divided into 2 lots. Each lot will be a conforming lot in its own right. The lot will maintain a shared driveway. Visually, this is the new lot line. This would be the easement that would allow the driveway to be shared between the 2 lots. This garage would be moved over to what we see as Lot 2 here. Are there any questions? Anything I can clarify for you?
Is there any questions from any member of the board at this time? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak to, for, or against this application at this time? Anyone in the public to, for, or against this application? Yeah. Would you like to address the board, please? Yep. Just need your name and address for the record, please.
Thanks. Barbara Peterson. I'm at 796 Middle Street. I'm right next door.
Yes.
I'm new to this whole process, so I was just wondering what's going to happen to the existing building. Is it, if you're going to make it into 2 properties, does that mean the existing building is being taken down, or?
From what I understand of on the drawings there, I don't know if you've had a chance to
I
review.
am, but I'm very ignorant about drawings, sadly, so.
Then why doesn't the applicant, if you could just take a moment and just show her, I think you said it was the garage that was proposed to be moved?
Okay, as you can see over here, here's the existing
If you could,
building.
excuse me for just, if you just pull that microphone right out so we can get a good record. Yeah, take the whole thing. You come straight up.
Very new to this.
No.
Okay, as you can see, this is the existing building as it is. This is the existing garage. This would be the new lot line. They're proposing to move the garage over here. This house would stay as it is, everything the same. And the only thing that would change in this lot and this lot, the driveway would stay, but they would share it between the 2 lots.
Okay, and you're proposing then, is the intent then to build to sell that and build a house?
I could ask the owner of the property.
Yeah. If you can come up for name and address for the record.
Thomas
I
Heaney.
believe
I'm
the
at-
question was, what is the intent of the lot?
Yeah, Thomas Heaney, 816 Middle Street. The intent is just to create a residential lot. I'm presuming that a single-family home will then be built on it, and there will be no change with the existing house other than the moving of the garage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, thanks.
You're very well. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who'd like to speak to, for, or against this application at this time? Anyone in the public to, for, or against this application? Third time? Seeing no one rise, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Holden.
the department has recommended 3 conditions and would recommend the 4th be added if the board deems it appropriate to grant preliminary and final. And the 4th would be that the garage shall be relocated subject to approval by the HCC. That way, if it's not, it'll come back to you or it would have to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
You said the HDC?
Correct. It's within the district.
Okay.
And on the drawings, David, it shows that it's 100-foot yet, and it was advertised as, 97.79.
Yeah, the 97.79 is for Lot 2, but it technically doesn't matter because that's a corner lot, so it can take its frontage off of both, so it actually has in excess of the amount required.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just as a comment, just so the applicant is clear that process of moving the garage would be done through the building permit process.
Good addition.
Not a stipulation or anything, just informative.
Information, thank you.
Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Chairman, do we have any specific regulations on shared driveways?
No, other than what our normal process is to send it off to the legal department for their review.
Okay. There's considerable interest in that particular piece of land from the neighbors, and I know the young lady that asked the question she was concerned about what was going on for that lot. And a lot of the neighbors are concerned that the trend of developing condos up Middle Street would evolve onto this particular lot, which there would be considerable concern over that. And I think the owner tonight said it would be a single-family home. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct in both cases. The new lot that's being created is going to be just over 10,000 square feet. It really isn't large enough to have more than one unit there per your ordinance. The house will remain with over 15,000 square feet. It's a single-family home. I live there. I have no intention to change it from that to anything else.
Because that is pretty close to the lot that's on Boss Avenue there.
Mm-hmm.
Those two houses are going to be pretty tight in there, unless you put it to the rear of the lot off from Lawrence Street.
Yeah, it more than conforms. So this does have 33% more than your requirement of 7,500 square feet. So is it a tight lot? It's going to actually have more land than most of the dwellings it surrounds, and some of those dwellings are duplexes. So I think there's more than adequate space for a single-family home.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. Is there a motion?
Move preliminary and final?
Second. Moved and seconded.
Conditions. Yeah.
For the four stipulations. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. You're all set. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Moving on to item D, the applicant of Mark C. Griffin and Beth P. Griffin, owners for property located at 239 Broad Street, and Mary Catherine Gatto, owner for property located at 336 Miller Avenue, and preliminary final subdivision approval of a lot line change is requested for between two lots having the following. Lot 15, as shown on Assessor Plan 131, increasing in area from 5,654 square feet to 7,454 square feet, and having 48 feet of continuous street frontage off Broad Street, and Lot 27, as shown on Assessor Plan 131, decreasing in area from 12,857 square feet to 11,057 square feet, and having 83 feet of continuous street frontage off Miller Avenue, and lying in a zone where a minimum lot area of 7,500 square feet and 100 feet of continuous street frontage is required. Said property is located in a general residence A district, and are shown on Assessor Plan 131 and as lots 15 and lots 27. Plot plans are on file with the Planning Department's office, identified as Plan 160105. Who'd like to address this?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Beth Griffin, and I'm here with my husband, Mark, and actually our neighbor, Kathy Gatto. I believe you all have a copy of our application, as well as two letters from our neighbors just stating their endorsement of our purchase. In its really simplest form, it's a little tiny piece of property, 1,800 square feet, that is unused today. Kathy owns it, would like to sell it, we'd like to buy it. She has an oversized lot, and we have two little girls under 4, and we'd like a bigger backyard. And no one else can use this land, and today it's not being used because even though she owns it, it's not part of our landscaped yard. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? No. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak to, for, or against this application at this time? Anyone in the public to, for, or against this application? Third time, seeing no one rise, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Chairman, move approval with the two stipulations.
Second. I can't vote against a 4-year-old. Sorry, I might. Moving second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. You girls are all set. They do, actually.
Put up a chain link fence.
I got a 7-year-old. Okay, moving on to E, the Portsmouth Planning Board acting pursuant to New Hampshire RSA 12G13 and Chapter 500 of Peace Development Authority subdivision regulations will review and make recommendations to Board of Directors of Peace Development Authority regarding the following: the application of General Services Administration, New England Region, applicant for property located at 40 Oak Avenue, where in preliminary and final subdivision approval is requested for the following: Lot 0 having an area of 11.57 acres and with 600 feet of continuous street frontage off Oak Avenue, and remaining land being decreased by 11.57 acres in constitution of a portion of the trade port and lying in a zone where a minimum lot area of 5 acres and 200 feet of continuous street frontage is required. Said properties are located in the Airport Business Commercial District and are shown on our Assessor Plan 315 as Lot 4. Plat plan is on file with the Planning Department office and identified as Plan 20205.
Mr. Chair, as I have a conflict, I have to recuse myself from this application.
Okay.
Would like,
Well, at this time, normally the applicant would come up and explain what they're requesting.
Whoever would like to address us. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Michael Williamson from the General Services Administration. I'm the project manager for this project. Basically, we're, just as your description indicates, we're cutting out 11.57 acres from a larger 30-acre parcel, and we'll then propose to build a new office building for the General Services Administration on this particular piece of land. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions for the applicant at this time? No, seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak to, for, or against this application at this time? Anyone in the public to, for, or against? Third time, seeing no one rise, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I would indicate to you that the department has worked with the Peace Development Authority in reviewing this. They have asked that we detail the need for an easement or a license area. That is condition number 5 and 6. Basic difference between this application and the previous one is with the lot area. It's been negotiated with the Development Authority. They're looking for the city's recommendation or the board's recommendation. And at this time, we'd recommend that you favorably recommend this request back to the Peace Development Authority with the 7 stipulations as indicated.
And the applicant's aware of the 7 stipulations?
Yes, they received a copy of this memo earlier in the week.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to grant preliminary and final subdivision approval with the 7 stipulations.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye. We're all set. Okay, moving on to our last public hearing for this evening. A public meeting to convene to review the new version of the city zonings map. Please note there are no changes in the zoning boundaries or district. This map is different presentation of the existing zoning information. The black and white version will be replaced with a full color map. This map uses the Graphic Information System, GIS, as base data and incorporates property boundaries. The zoning map is on file with the Planning Department office. Good evening.
Hello. For the record, Peter Britz, environmental planner. I'm just here to present the city's... Grab this one.
The cities, you mean your many hours of laborious work.
Peters and
many hours, fine.
Oh, and Lucy. Sorry, Lucy.
Jason Wise in the Public Works. First, I'll show you the existing zoning map, which you're all familiar with. It's a black and white line printed map that shows the city zones and has basically a description of the zones over here. The only distinction is that there's a black line and the label on the inside. I can show it to you guys too over here. Just the existing zoning map. See what I turn around. The new version's in a landscape format instead of portrait. That's one difference. Really, the differences are all, as it said in the public hearing notice, they're all just layout changes and just display changes, no actual zone changes on this version. But the biggest new feature on this map is that it shows tax map boundaries or parcel boundaries. So it makes it a little bit easier for property owners or business owners to locate themselves on this map. Whereas where you're in a real tight district down here, it's really hard to identify where your zone is. So this version will help with that. We've got the same titles on all the districts as on the previous map, just that they're in different colors here. Tried to conform as closely as possible with the planning conventions for zoning colors. And the idea is just to show it tonight, to let people take a look at it, let everybody know here and at home that it's in the planning department. Take a look at it. It will be available eventually online in a PDF format so people can look at it on their computer at home. And the nice thing about having it in a GIS format is the analysis and different work can be the map can be manipulated in many ways, so we can determine how many acres of each zone. We can color the map a certain way for a certain public meeting if you wanted to look at a certain acreages of zones in the city, that type of thing. So it's a little more user friendly, if you will. Any questions about this?
No. I have one that might be perhaps just as a means to explore further why we're doing this. When we do the next zoning map based on the new master plan, this will be the base that we're working from. So now you understand the importance of showing the individual tax boundaries. But perhaps, Peter, you could explain a little bit better than I can the accuracy difference between the former map and this map.
I don't need to point at the map to do that. Really, the previous map is kept in a CAD format, but it was drawn before I was here. With the planning department staff.
Grade school, however.
I was in grade school. Basically, some of the guidelines were used, setbacks from the center line of streets and setbacks from certain property boundaries. We were able to go in and actually find those property boundaries and measure to those setbacks with the GIS, where when the map was originally created, the black and white version was originally created, those had to be approximated by eye a little bit more using a city street map. So it's really been a shift in technology that's brought it to this level, and so we can see it. And if we couldn't see it, in some areas we used aerial photo to determine where the center line of a street was and things like that. So we have different tools available now that we didn't have then. Probably accuracy on this map is probably closer to 10 or 15 feet, where the previous map was probably more like 25 to 50 feet, plus or minus. We're not, different areas have different accuracy based on the base data, but that explains that.
And if anyone's had a chance to see this up close, I think it's a lot easier to read in the landscape as opposed to it was in portrait. And hopefully, can we also get a copy of this down at the public library so it'd be down there for people in the public to have an opportunity to go down and review it?
Yep.
Yeah, the full size. The full-size version, so we can have it down at the library as well as in the planning department office.
We have a copy in the planning department now. We'll make one available at the library as well.
Thank you. If there's anyone in the public here who would like to come up and take a look at it, you feel free to. And meanwhile, any more questions for Peter?
Peter, has there been any talk about trying to somehow get this on the web?
Yeah. What we're going to do from the next step is basically from the point that it gets approved after 3 readings by the City Council, it'll be memorialized as a digital file, which will probably be in a PDF format. Because, as a subdivision comes in and particular zone changes come in, the map will kind of be changed as we go. So we'll have this as an approved at that date, and then just like the old map, there'll be the amendments that come along. That'll be put right on a map, and then that map will then get saved along with the existing one. So we can save it in a digital format, and we'll have a hard copy format, both at the city clerk's office. But it's a very easy thing to do, and that will be done.
I'm just envisioning something like, you go on the web to like MapQuest, and you're not going to see the whole city probably on your screen, or you could, but it wouldn't be much detail. But then you could zoom in and
I think
do a lot of research right from your desktop.
I think they'll have a low resolution one that shows the whole city, and then when you click in a certain area, it'll zoom in on that area.
Yeah.
I'm working with IT on how to and GIS, Jason Wise, on how to best do that.
But you are hitting one of the interesting problems when this is adopted as an ordinance. It's the lot lines that existed at the time of adoption, whereas the city's GIS system will automatically be updating so the zoning map, in a way, the property boundaries will start to change, but it'll be frozen in time as to when it was adopted. So there are a few interesting little...
Nuances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The city council will be taking this up for initiating the readings in September, which means if the board's interested, the public hearing likely would be around the September-October timeframe, with the intent of having this in place by fall.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public who would wish to make comments on it or have an opportunity to look at it? Anyone in the public? Third time? No, I'm going to close the public meeting. Thank you very much. Peter, thanks for all your work on that, and Lucy as well. I know you guys put a lot of hours into that. Okay, moving on to City Council referrals and requests. Number one, a request to review archaeological matters and historic sites in the city. Mr. Holden.
This was tabled to this meeting. The department, working with several other departments, has accumulated a fair amount of data, and we hope to have a recommendation for you. We'd like to ask that you, I don't know if the memo said to table it to September or October. September, so that we could get it back to you at that time.
So moved. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the chair votes aye. I'm going to pass the gavel down to the vice chair, please.
City Council referrals and request number 2, a request from Kenneth and Deborah Smith for a license for land use beside and in back of their property located at 291 Myrtle Avenue. David?
Mr. Chair, would indicate to you that we're working on an exhibit that should bring all of this together, and would again ask you to table this to September.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's good practice every month. I like that, yeah. I got to send the block down that too. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Hey, wait, I can sit here.
When you're in the construction business,
I said block, not block. Oh, yeah.
Okay, moving on to the request for the amendment for the zoning ordinance to permit financial institutions in an office research zone. Mr. Holden.
We're continuing to work on this, but because the issues are so key to the master plan, as we've tried to advise you in our memo, we're actually retaining the services of a consultant. I believe it will be Tainter Associates, so that when we do this, we can tie this use throughout all the districts that it's used in, which is a little more than what was encompassed when we originally started on this, so it would take care of an entire use block. We have met with the original applicant who requested this. They're not removing it, but they're not going forward with it, so it's not as time sensitive as it once was. But we'd like to think that we could have this before you at the October meeting. I believe that's what the memo says.
Yes.
So our request to you would be to table it to your October meeting, where we'll have the proposal in front of you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. And let's see, moving on to the last City Council referral, and that's the request to rezone land on Banfield and Constitution. Mr. Holden.
This was referred by the council. It was not received in time for your last packet, so it comes up at this meeting. The department finds that the request has merit, and so would ask you to direct the applicant to prepare the matrix and to have us review it and come in with a report. I would assume at your September meeting. If you wish, you could also try to schedule it for a public hearing at that time, or you could wait to see, or public meeting, or you could wait to review the materials. It's really more or less up to you at this point.
I think it's, since we haven't had an opportunity to see the matrix and know what the issues are, I think it's probably best to hold off for the placing the vote.
So
moved.
Perfect.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and second. Discussion?
Is this going to hold up any construction out there on the site?
Even if it does, it's appropriate to take the time to look at it. But one reason that earth products removal was before you was because it is not attached to a building permit, which is why that was the first time in my memory the board has actually used Article 8.
Yeah.
It's for a removal operation.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I can't remember when we did one of those. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Okay, moving on to new business. Seacoast Foundation walking trail signs on the business district. Mr. Holden.
This request was received several months ago. The Seacoast Foundation, Ms. Bunting, has worked closely with the Departments of Public Works, Police, and also Planning. This proposal, I think they're probably better at explaining it. They indicated that it was to create a walk that would encourage better health styles through walking. There would be a number of trails, but the key one is the one that is in the Central Business District. I think the memo speaks to itself in terms of setting up a pilot program, but I think it would be most appropriate perhaps to hear what this is about. It's an interesting partnership with the city, or potential partnership, and would ask that you ask Ms. Bunting and her cohorts to perhaps address the board.
Ms. Bunting, please. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you very much for entertaining our request. The Foundation for Seacoast Health has been working closely with Portsmouth Hospital, with the city, with your public health department, with the school department, with the superintendent Lister, and others. We're very concerned about the childhood obesity issues, not just nationally, but here in the Seacoast. And subsequently, we know that if we're really going to make a difference with children and their eating habits and their activity habits, we need to get through the children to the families. And so the Portsmouth neighborhoods are also involved in this. And I have a representative here from the coalition, which is made up of about 12 different representatives of different groups in the city, some of which I've just mentioned. The basic thing here is downtown Portsmouth is gorgeous, and we have designed a walking trail that will be the centerfold of 12 different walking opportunities around the Seacoast area. But the Portsmouth is the main one to get people out, to get them walking in groups. It's good health. It's also safety. And one of the federal requirements will be in the year 2006 that all schools must have a wellness policy. All public schools have to have a wellness policy that meets 3 specific guidelines, and we're working with them on that. One is to change the nutrition programs in the school. The second is to get kids up and moving and more active than they have been in the past. And the third is to actually change the school environment as far as health goes. So it's a real push in the schools, and we're working closely with them. It's not a terribly expensive project, but we do have funding from the Foundation of Healthy Communities, which is part of the New Hampshire Hospital Association. The Foundation for Seacoast Health is helping with the funding, and Portsmouth Hospital. Part of the funding is used to develop a passport, and they'll be free to the public. We hope to have them in physicians' offices, in the chamber, anywhere that public goes, pick up these passports and to look at the maps from the passport and start walking, and that's why we called it Step It Up Seacoast. This is being done in Dover. They have maps in Dover. They have maps in the Laconia. So we're not terribly new about doing this, but we've moved one step further by going into the schools and working with the schools so we can work with children as well. And I'd like to introduce Beth Hartnett because she can talk to you much more about the trail because she walks it regularly. I broke my leg. I stumble it.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hey, I'm Beth Hartnett. I'm a resident of Portsmouth and a member of the Step It Up Seacoast Coalition. And the downtown walk that we're proposing would start at, actually you could start at any of the signs that we're proposing to put up. But I will introduce it from South Mill Playground, where you would walk down Junkins Ave to the end of the street, cross at Pleasant Street, take a right, till you get to Hancock Street, walk through the south end to Marcy Street, take a left onto Marcy Street to the crosswalk that already exists, walk into Prescott Park, take a left until you get to the end of Prescott Park, dip down underneath the bridge till you come around the corner up to Bow Street, around Bow Street, down to Market Street, down to Market Square, down Congress Street, over to Middle, to Richards, and then back up South Street to Junkins Ave. And it's a 2.5-mile walk. We're going to notify in our passport that there are 3 areas where there could be free parking: South Mill Playground, Little Harbor School when it's not in session, and also Pierce Island. But then we're also noting that metered parking and the Hanover parking garage is also a good place to park. But we're expecting primarily Portsmouth residents will be doing this, so perhaps parking won't be that much of an issue.
And on the route, there are sidewalks and crosswalks at every location?
We worked with Public Works. We've had 2 meetings with them, and we've made some changes to meet their requirements. The one place where there is not an existing crosswalk is at the end of Junkins across Pleasant Street, but they didn't think that would be an issue as far as adding them there.
Okay. And also, has the department had a chance to look through this, since I know we're getting on the construction time of the Scott Street Bridge?
That's one, no, it's not the primary, but this is also would be recommended as a pilot program for a 1-year period. That project won't be starting for some time yet, so there won't be a conflict.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Mr. Sullivan?
There is no sidewalk underneath the Memorial Bridge by the Scott Bridge, and that's a real dangerous area. And if you're considering funneling youngsters from the elementary schools and so forth on this path, I strongly recommend you take that in consideration. That's a dangerous spot. The cars go fast through there, and they don't stop for anybody.
Yeah, we have taken that into account, and when we had our meetings with Steve Parkinson and Mr. Holden, we decided to stay that route because it's actually less trafficked than crossing State Street. There's an existing crosswalk by Dos Amigos, but walking there regularly, it's safer actually to walk under the bridge, and that's where a number of families that I walk with walk. But
I think you get my point.
Yes,
it's bad there.
Maybe that's something we can take into consideration when we do the design of the Scott Street Bridge for that reconstruction. Mr. Hopley.
Quick question for David, and then maybe a comment. Does the city still have a partnership with the Masonic Temple for that parking lot at the corner of Miller and Middle?
Yes.
That would be another option, because you're only a block away for another parking area, Middle and Miller at the Masonic Temple parking area.
Good point. Mr. Cerami.
I have a question. Probably you already know the answer. Where will the signs face? Will they face the sidewalk and not the street, right?
they will. They'll be quite small, actually. We had them initially designed to be 12 by 12, but it was suggested that we shrink that a bit, so it would be 8 inches by 8 inches, facing the street at about 4.5 feet, so primarily for walkers. We're not trying to catch anyone's attention in vehicles. And we would put them on existing posts.
Like the signs will face the sidewalk.
Exactly.
Now, would they be on both sides, so no matter which way you circle around, or?
No, if you look at the areas, and I believe you have the photographs of the different potential areas where we could put them, the existing signs that are there would just be single-sided. So 2 different places are where there's a trolley stop sign, and that really only requires one side.
Any other questions? Mr. Sullivan?
If I understood you correctly, you said those signs were going to be put on a post that would be at about a 5. That's a dangerous location for people riding bicycles, running, and walking and so forth. Not that I object to putting signs up, but that's bad.
Well, it would be on existing. It wouldn't be individual posts. That was our original idea, but after consulting with others in the city, they suggested that we put it on existing posts. So we wouldn't be adding one that might interrupt the flow of a bicycle or anything.
I think, too, that one of the recommendations is these locations will be approved by DPW. I know where you're getting at, and that'll be one of the considerations. It would be whether or not you might stumble into it, whether it would be affected by the travel. That's where DPW would be involved to ensure that.
Because we do have a regulation on for signs and flags and so forth. They've got to be above head level so that people don't get injured by them. I think you're leaving yourself open for some serious problems on litigation if somebody runs into them.
And we'll make sure that those get approved by DPW to make sure we don't have those issues.
Good point. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? No? Thank you. Thank you very much. So do I have a motion for the recommendation? Should go back to the city
Mr.
council?
Chair, I'd like to move that we adopt the planning department's recommendation with their set of 9 stipulations.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. And when you open this up, hopefully you can get some invitations out to us too.
Great.
I know I could use the walk. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Sullivan.
Where does the city stand in regards to the signage for the entire city of Portsmouth? We had talked several times about regulating signs and having all of them on one post in certain locations and so forth to kind of clean up the city. And I just wonder where we stand on that.
I can report to you on that your last action on that was to table it so that we could await the hiring of a new parking and transportation director. That's been done, but that would also indicate to you that's one reason this is recommended as a pilot. So it's really from September or perhaps October through December 1st.
Good. Thank you.
And then we'll be having that meeting shortly after
Hopefully.
she gets acclimated with the position.
We don't want to startle her too much.
If she's working with you, I think she's startled. Okay, moving on to B, the request for one-year extension for site review approval for 1800 Woodbury Avenue.
This is about a 3,000 square foot detached building on the Gerber Dental lot between Gerber Dental and Circuit City. This is their first one-year extension, and we recommend that it be extended to next August.
No changes?
No changes.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
Moving second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. And, okay, moving on to amended site plan review for 280 Heritage Avenue.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're expecting Peter Weeks to show up representing the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a, good speak. Right.
Then we would urge that this gentleman be allowed to speak.
Good evening. Is this your name and address for the record?
Evening to all of you. Emery Smith from Acton, Massachusetts. Excuse me for the impromptu. Basically what this is there was a small omission on the original site plan given for approval. The omissions include a utility room and a roof over the loading dock. The two issues that we're concerned about mostly are safety. Obviously, it's safer for us to have all the items within the utility room enclosed. And aesthetic looks. Everything will be enclosed, won't be on the outside face of the building.
And the reason we brought this to you is because we deemed it to be a significant change, although not significant enough to warrant a TAC review or anything else. We wanted the board to be aware of it and it is appropriate to ask any questions. However, the department does recommend that it be approved. And I don't know, Rick, if you want to add something, because it's really inspections and planning working on this.
Well, just during the plan review, when I got the building plans reflected this appendage on the building, and I had remembered from the board that we had approved a rectangular building. So we learned the discrepancy between the building plans and the site plan. That's why they're here.
Okay. Any discussion, any questions for the applicant? Seeing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
And what is your pleasure, board?
Department would look for a motion recommending the approved amended site plan.
So moved. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And chair votes aye. Moving on to 155 Griffin Road.
This is Harbor Women's Health, which is kind of like in the middle of the circle down on Griffin Road. It's adjusting the handicap parking spaces so that they're evenly distributed to three sides of the building. There are now two tenants being proposed for the building, and this would give handicap access parking at the individual doorways. And I've had it reviewed by Mr. Hopley, who likes it.
It's a great idea.
Good enough for me.
It really is. It's a lot better than what was originally
Is
approved.
it adding any more spaces or just
Redistributing, because originally the building was a single occupant building with a main entrance, and that's where all the accessible parking was. And now, because the building is being split up, and there's more than one main entrance, it makes all the sense in the world to redistribute that to two sides of the building.
And they still have an adequate number?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the overall square footage and parking demand doesn't change, because the building stays the same size, it's just now multiple tenants.
Okay. Thank you. And
Recommend the approval.
is there a motion for recommending approval?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Okay, and one last one is adjournment.
So moved.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Wait, no!
What?
David has something.
Oh, I have something.
Hold on. Hold on.
I don't even know what it is.
I need the board.
Oh, put the clickers down, everyone.
Something long ago.
What we have is we need to have the board recognized, so I'll read you the letter. It's regarding 107, 109 Preble Way. It is my intent to separate and transfer ownership of the building known as 107, 109 Preble Way. The property is part of the original subdivision dated July 17, 1919, and the structure was built prior to May 20th, 1982. What we need is the board to note for the record that you've had 107, 109 Preble Way up to recreate the original subdivision so that this property transfer can go through.
So acknowledged. Is there a second?
Why not?
Make it a full motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Anything else? No, we'll retake the motion.
Just those clickers.
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
7 minutes. This is some kind of record.